31-year-old gay man. I've been playing games literally my whole life. Worked in various different sectors, always in software engineering during and post college, and now I work for Riot Games on League of Legends. I work on a computer for my 8 hours, and I get off and I do another 8-hour shift on the video games I want to play.
Hello. My name is Benjamin. Gamer tag / handles and stuff. I usually go by Mayhaps or Cymbalta. I have a bachelor's degree in musical theater. I'm a professional singer. Been singing professionally for about 11 years.
My name is Julianne, and my game handling is Amazon Killer. Yeah, I play WoW, play a whole bunch of survival games like Rust, Valheim, and stuff like that.
My name is Tyler. I go by Brobson online. I mostly play MMOs. I grew up playing RuneScape and World of Warcraft.
My name is Caitlin Medill. My gamer handle is Winter Stella, Winter Luna, Winter Lux. And I've been playing video games since I was 6 years old.
I think that the initial team that I got onto in Riot women are definitely underrepresented.
All of the major studio CEOs are still straight white men.
If our team had 10 people, 15 people, 4 were women. I did not really seek out to find out who was gay or who wasn't or whatever. I know at least one other member of my team that I've been on the same team with since then is non-binary. Another one who's still at Riot but went to a different team. I think they're out and trans. So I would say pretty visible, and I don't think people feel the need to hide it. But I think that I wouldn't say especially my role, just being definitely services engineer, back-end services engineer, service reliability, that role in general, I think is underrepresented with women.
Consistently for all of my time at all the places I've worked, and I started at NBC on the entertainment television side. I worked at Fox. I worked at CBS, Viacom CBS. So three of the big four. But yeah, the through line of all those places is after a certain level, everyone is typically a straight white guy. Maybe you'll get a white gay guy every now and again.
I have been really blessed by the people I'm surrounded by on my team and around my team, in that I don't think it's had an effect whatsoever. I've had so many people go to bat for me just like they would anyone else, because they care about the people on this team. They want to do the best that we can and run the game the best that we can, and also have a culture where we can trust and be vulnerable with each other. That's always been important. Can we do that when you're in the hot seat and maybe you broke something, maybe you didn't, but you're the one that has to figure out how to fix League of Legends and get people playing it again, and a bunch of people are mad and they want it up now. It's when people are regularly in that situation, you have to do away with blame. You have to do away with vulnerability, whether you're trying to protect yourself or protect your ego. And to do that, your team needs you to feel safe on your team. You need to feel safe to be I don't know what to do here. How do I inspect a service and turn that into a learning moment?
In terms of seeing women in more senior level roles, certainly few to no C-level execs that are females or LGBTQ plus. I think a lot of that has been walked back with sort of the deprecation of the DEI initiatives and inclusions, which is really sad and unfortunate.
I think that level of vulnerability has made me always feel pretty safe. I've never even once had the thought cross my mind at work, is my sexuality playing a factor here? If anything, I think it's made other people comfortable to talk with me about it. I think that the non-binary coworker I talked about before, they had come out, I don't know, 2 years within coming in. I don't know if I made them feel safer to do that or what. I never asked them.
I would say that seeing peer level colleagues, not super uncommon to see women and queer folks that were my same level or maybe 1 or 2 higher. But when you get to, I would say a senior director level, it really starts to taper off. And then once you're at a VP, it's all white guys, straight white guys. So, and that's disheartening and kind of defeating, because it doesn't matter how much you hustle or how adept you are or how much impact you drive. At the end of the day, VP role is probably going to go to a mediocre white man.
Over the years, I find myself I put myself in less and less competitive spaces, for a multitude of different reasons. I don't really like the side of people that gets brought out in competitive environments. In games that have a built-in voice chat feature, I find myself toggling that off entirely. I pretty much only use, Discord, or like back in the day Skype or Ventrilo, things like that, where I had a dedicated server with just my friends. The people that I had in those spaces were very vetted, and I knew that they were people that I trusted and would feel safe around. I am very intentional when I join a guild or community, clan, free company, whatever you want to call it, in a game, that I seek out a place that claims to be inclusive and is LGBT friendly and things like that. It's too much of a crapshoot to not specifically look out for those things, and I would honestly rather play a game completely by myself, even a massively multiplayer game. I would rather play it completely by myself than risk getting put into a voice call or something like that with people who are going to say things that I do not want to be around.
I mean, voice chat, there's a lot of positives. I think it does really help foster, community and connection. And when you do find a good group of people, it really lends itself to building camaraderie and establishing a good rapport. There's a lot of jokes to be had and laughs. It's also very efficient if you're trying to orchestrate killing internet dragons with 20 plus people. So there's a lot of positives. That said, being a female in a fairly male dominated space, once you kind of know a group is safe and good to go, there's not many concerns there. But I think initially when you do join voice comms with a group, a pug, a pickup group, or a new, you're trialing with maybe a new guild, there's always a little bit of, for me, concern and wariness the first time you do vocalize in a voice channel, because then you're immediately identified as being a female, which can then sometimes beget unwanted attention. And that kind of varies. I think I've been fortunate to be in spaces where that hasn't been an issue, but I have a lot of experiences where the moment that it becomes clear you're a female, suddenly you're getting a lot of attention and unsolicited selfies, and bids for interaction and communication, which I am fairly certain, if my voice sounded more masculine or it wasn't clear I was a female, wouldn't be happening.
So there's been in guilds I've been in where I had to remain very silent, just because the hostility towards women was crazy. There's being in Discord is there's been so many different guilds and environments is kind of hard. Some places are if it's a safe spot, then I can talk and chat all I want about whatever. Places where you could kind of feel a little insecure and stuff like that, where it's not safe. It's a bunch of bro culture, and some Andrew Tate shit gets said. Yeah, I'm not gonna talk in there whatsoever.
In my larger raid group, maybe I'm a little quieter. Not that I think my sexuality is a role, but I think when there's a larger team, you need to only be saying what's going to help. Otherwise, I'm going to get frustrated that we're not clearing the encounters. But I mean, I've been in situations too where you're in some tournament space or something for League of Legends or whatever, and you're speaking to strangers, and you sort of get the telltale signs, is this person they're not with it, they're probably a little homophobic. Maybe they wouldn't even say it here, but there's going to be signs, right? And in that case, I've come to realize, I wouldn't have said this in the past, but I've come to realize that maybe I am confrontational. So I personally don't exactly make myself quieter. I try not to change much at all. And if they say something, I'm well, I'm glad you brought that up. So like, and if like the whole space is against me, then I'm not gonna be in that space anymore.
I think it's something I realized over time, primarily in World of Warcraft through groups. Over the years, joining different raid groups and kind of seeing the different environments. It's something that I think is easy to turn kind of a blind eye to. And I think maybe we've all been guilty of at one point or another, just kind of like allowing things to happen or being a part of an environment that's not as inclusive or positive as it needs to be. And so I think definitely over time, I kind of realized that there were areas where certain minority groups were definitely not being treated the way that others were. And ever since then, I think I've tried to kind of create spaces that are inclusive for all and go out of their way even to make sure that everyone feels heard and included. So I think maybe the general trend in gaming is headed in the right direction, but I think we definitely still have a lot of ways to go in that regard for sure. That's an interesting question. I'm trying to think of a specific game where I felt like I wasn't represented. But no, I feel like mostly the games I play are definitely catered towards me. There usually is a big, strong, straight white man who's in charge of saving the day. I don't know. I kind of always go in video games to the like damsel in distress model of the OG Mario games. That's kind of how I feel like game developers have always looked at how they need to develop a hero, and I've always felt pretty well represented in the games that I've played.
I think these people are like making an issue, like, and they feel so righteous. It's almost like the opposite. Like these people need to feel validated in their place in the world, and somehow like seeing that video games are changing. Like it is a change that they're being more inclusive. That you will more often see a woman main character. You will more often see a person of color as a main character. You will more often see like Black people in Black hairstyles in games being represented accurately. I think it gets a little difficult. I think sometimes things are in an attempt to be inclusive, a game might get into like, yeah, I mean, you're kind of pandering. Or frankly, a game will be inclusive and it will be a bad game. It will be a flop. And then you will have that group that will be like, oh, it's a flop because it tried to be woke. And it's like, well, that's not true either. You can make a bad woke game. Like, I don't really think that's related. But like these people have like latched on to like this righteous idea, or like they feel self-righteous about being like, I know the issue, like I get it. Like it's so much easier for them to like navigate their woes with the industry, their disillusionment with like games, the disillusionment with their own nostalgia, if they can pin it on this, that like other people are included. They can convince themselves that when options open up, like a game is making people more included because more options are there. When options are opened up, that their choice, the choice that they would have made, is like less validated. They not only want to like be able to make the choice that they're making, they want to make, you know, a white man in a game, whatever is the character representation. They not only want to feel like they can do that, they want to feel like they were right. They want to feel like most people agree with them, that was the right choice in the character creator. It makes them feel like their option is not the norm anymore. They want to be normal. Like normal. They want to be their normal. They want to feel like they are the most common, they are part of the majority. And that is where I think a lot of like maybe the misunderstanding and also their pain comes from. And I will say it, like they're obviously feeling a pain.
Gaming is a man's thing. It's like, think of baseball, think of football. When all of a sudden you have like flag football coming up big, men are getting upset about that. Or baseball, they're like, why don't they just play softball? They have other things to play. And I think when women interact in men's games, it pisses them off because that's their spot and they've claimed it. And so it makes it harder. And then when you start getting female characters, like World of Warcraft is a prime example of that. We keep on having strong female leads of it, comparative to the past when you just had a male orc that was just like, fuck you, Sylvanas, type of shit in that quest line in, I forgot what that quest line, it's right outside of Lordaeron. But anyways, like, it's so much different then, and people always quote, well, that was the best era when big, burly men ruled World of Warcraft, and now since Sylvanas and all these female windrunners are coming around, it's made the game weaker. Instead, the story and plot is way more better than having a brutish man running around going to kill everything. I grew up in the 90s, like I was born in the 80s, and so I grew up in the 90s, and we had strong women leads everywhere. We had Xena video games, we had Tomb Raider. So I saw myself in those games, and there was countless like Japanese role-playing games that had female leads. I didn't struggle with it with the PlayStation 1 type of era games and stuff like that, or like maybe the earlier ones there wasn't any females and all the females were like Link and Zelda where he's rescuing her and stuff like that. But no, I as an older millennial, for me, I saw Lara Croft, even though she was hot, she was a strong female, and Xena as like the goddess of all fucking lesbians, of strong femalism. Hell, yet shows like Star Trek Voyager with Janeway and stuff like that, that those very strong female leads. But nowadays, I think that's kind of lost. I think mid 2000s and teens really saw a weakening of women after that huge women push in the 90s and stuff like that. And so I feel like kids nowadays, they don't have that.
I think for me, like, you know, I'm obviously very privileged because I'm a straight white woman, and I was born female, I identify as female, and I can't begin to comprehend what that lived experience must be to never see yourself represented anywhere, just because I can do my best to empathize, and it's awful, like, but I quite literally can't imagine, because that's beyond my comprehension. So I think it's a positive thing. I really appreciate that people are leaning in and taking risks, and you know, I think in general, anytime you make changes, there's always going to be pushback, because humans fundamentally fear the unknown. They don't like things that are not familiar. And I think there's sort of a evolutionary biology instinct to feel like, oh, I'm therefore being threatened. This is different. Sometimes, especially with things like this, it just takes a long time for the general public to eventually catch up. You know, my brain just goes to looking at interracial marriage, which wasn't legalized until 1969, I believe.
I think the use of the word woke is so stupid. I think it's so reductive, and I think that the knee-jerk reaction to call anything different than a cis white straight man being the protagonist as woke is it belies such a bigger issue. But it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because to an extent I can see what they're talking about in certain scenarios. Because I understand, as a queer person, I love to see representation in games. I'm a big fan of that. But I can point to a few examples of games that I've played where I personally feel like it's been a bit heavy-handed, and it wasn't necessarily implemented the best way, and definitely not in a way that would win anyone over. I'm talking about Dragon Age: The Veilguard. But as a queer person, it really has been great to see people who, you know, different characters who I can relate to, and seeing how that has changed over the course of, you know, playing games. I mean, for me, the first time that I can remember being able to experience a queer romance in a game was with my husband, Caden Alenko, in Mass Effect 3. And I remember his name, and this has been years upon years and upon years at this point. It really struck such a chord with me. And that feeling is something I would not trade for anything. And so the push for more inclusion and diversity in games is just going to make that feeling affect even more people that maybe have never felt it before. And so because of that, I do feel that it is very important. And I'm happy that it's happening, and I'm happy to experience it. learn to appreciate a good story and learn to step outside of yourself. Like, I do feel like that's what we're all kind of doing here playing video games anyway. So, anyway.
That I like got goosebumps because that just like breaks my heart because that I just again I can't comprehend it, and that's just so sad. Because I have so many loved ones who are queer, and from everything that I'm able to understand from where I'm sitting as a straight woman, to be constantly told your whole life that there's something wrong with you and you're not right and you're not welcome and you're not safe and you're somehow deficient or invalid. I can relate to that and for other reasons that I've experienced, but yeah, in terms of like a core part of who you are, like in your very being, that has got to be absolutely devastating. And it's bad enough that in most like it's gotten better in recent years, but in most like entertainment, television, film, TV, books, all of the above, a lot of the non-heteronormative relationships like just haven't had visibility. They haven't been given any sort of like a platform for folks to see those stories, and those are important stories. So yeah, to apply it further to video games, like I just imagine that's like another you're constantly 360 barraged by getting reinforced that like you don't matter, your experience is like invalid, it's wrong, and this is what's right, and we're gonna continue to like only show you these heteronormative relationships. And like, yeah, video games, I think for most of us, they're supposed to be sort of this like safe space, this outlet, where we can decompress and really like lose ourselves and, hyper focus and really get involved. And I imagine that that makes it bittersweet in a way, because it's this thing that you really enjoy and love doing at the same time. It still is that constant little, jab reminder that like, well, you're wrong. There's something off about you.
That's crazy. That's definitely a stat. I would be surprised if developers knew that and then were misrepresenting it in their games. I think, I don't really know what I think, actually. My mind immediately goes to Tracer from Overwatch. That was like the first like openly gay character that I can remember being announced, and it was definitely celebrated, but I guess it was kind of like almost made a spectacle more than just being like a seamless transition to the gaming space. So yeah, I wonder how you fix that. Like you just, I mean, I guess we're kind of contributing to the answer right now by just talking about it and putting it more front of mind so that more developers are creating games that are more representative of the audience base that they have. But yeah, I would definitely be interested to see like how we can continue to put that front and center in a way that incentivizes or at least like motivates developers to consider it more when they're making their games. Because there definitely are franchises I can think of where it is like a centerpiece, or at least like you can tell that it's in their mind when they're creating characters, right? It's something that they want to create and something that they want those people to be able to see and experience and feel represented. But I guess it's just like nowhere near enough.
Honestly, at this point, it feels like second nature, because it is something that I've had to do for so long. But also, there is something that I kind of alluded to earlier when I was talking about how, the question about the wokeness and the straight males kind of revolting against the idea of queerness being the focus. I have the ability to kind of put myself on a shelf and experience a piece of media and a piece of content for what it is And like, if I see myself represented there, that's great, and I'll enjoy it, and you know, it's nice. But like, I can find a way to explore the story and enjoy the story even when I don't see myself in it. I think that's something that a lot of people could learn to do when interfacing with media.
Yeah, so I've definitely been a part of situations where I have and where I haven't. Situations where women have been being attacked unfairly by others. And I think in the cases where I didn't stand up and say anything, it almost certainly was just because I was afraid of being tag teamed on by the people who were picking on the woman. And there's some shame in admitting that now, but that's just the truth. When you're in that kind of situation and you see someone who's being picked on that is a minority, it's tough to step in and like stand up for what's right just because you feel like you're joining the wrong or the losing side, you know? And that's definitely like a loser's mentality, saying it out loud and looking at it now, but that's kind of in the moment back then, that's the way that I looked at those situations, and the fear of being on the losing side, I guess, is what prevented me from being able to do what I know was the right thing. But nowadays, I don't have any qualms about that. I would stand up in a heartbeat because it's just now, like, just looking at games the way that I do now as being more about the people I play them with than the results in the video game, it's so much easier for me to stand up for people and do things that are just objectively the right thing to do, regardless of whether it may set my character in game back by a day or two. That equation has shifted in my head as I've grown as a gamer, and it's just a lot easier to make those types of decisions now. So I would give, if I were to give some unsolicited advice here in this interview for anyone out there, don't care as much about your character's short-term success and care more about like the people that are involved in the games you're playing with. If you make sure that they're having a good time and you're having a good time with them, you'll have a lot more people on your friends list in the long term.
Everything in my mind comes back to Mass Effect 3. That romance, I just feel like it was so well done. Like the scene where Shepard and Kaidan are together, like for the first time, having their intimate moment. Everything, even down to the body language, was just so well choreographed and so well done. It didn't feel like it was a joke. Like it felt like a real moment. And I don't even, you have Kaidan as a companion in Mass Effect 1. He's around in Mass Effect 2. And then Mass Effect 3 is when you can actually romance him. And it really, like, the way that it read to me was that Kaidan is like bi or pan. Like, I don't think that Kaidan is just a gay man. I think that it's telling a story where the only reason that he is comfortable is because it is Commander Shepard. Like, because of what they have been through together, because of what they have built. Like, watching all of that build over 3 games and then culminate was just really special. And it felt true to who he was. I feel like maybe not everybody who's played the game agrees with me, but I felt like he was a really well-written character, a really complex character, and seeing them get together made me feel really good, like my Canadian husband.
I think my favorite moments are ones that make it seem like normal. That I think, like, again, like I brought up like Dragon Age Origins, like their like queerness wasn't some big story, like, oh, like what did everyone think about you being gay, Zevra, and like what implications does that have on your place in society? Did your parents disown you? Like yada yada yada. He had other things that were like definitely wrong with him, but they weren't because he was like bi or gay. That was just an option. Like he was just like, I don't see why that would be a problem. That was like, I don't know what I would say. It was like, oh, I feel so celebrated in this moment. But I'm like, I think that's the thing that I will have the most appreciation for, is like a comfortable place for me to experience like queerness as like something that's normal. Because honestly, in the life I lead now, it's extremely normal. Like it's almost like so ham-fisted or hammy when I see like these big moments in games where like you've got to go through such like tumult or go through their family problems or whatever, and it's just like, well, like I don't know, as a 30-year-old gay man, like we've all been through it. but it's like old news. Like, and also like no one's like feeling like they have to like come out anymore. Maybe to their family that, you know, might be less accepting of it, still depending on like people have all sorts of situations, but like also like I don't know, especially in a fantasy game, like I don't really like seek to relive that. So it's like fine to tell that experience, of course, and depending on the developer, like if they're telling an authentic experience, like, you know, love it, go for it. But yeah, I think that like the joy, the way I feel the most joy is when it's like no Mass Effect 3. Bring up a lot of BioWare. I don't know. Is anyone else doing gay stuff? Like Warcraft will show it sometimes. League of Legends has some characters, like you got TF and Graves. Like that's always just joy, by the way. Like I like, you know, I love it. Leona and Diana. I think well that one's kind of like trauma, but that's like fun. It's like Romeo and Juliet. Like they're not supposed to be doing that. It's like the moon and the sun. I think that's different. It's not because they're lesbian. It's because they're sun and moon. Which is also normal to put queer people in like distress for like a different reason than their queerness. Like, yeah, go ahead. Like, why can't these people be together? And it's like, oh my god, it's because she's a Montague. Like, I think that's like that's what I want. Like, my joy comes from like the same like nice, cool storytelling, and it being like, I don't want to use the word like normalized. I don't think that like. I guess I don't care too much that like everyone feels like, oh, this is comfortable. I'm making a choice that everyone else is making. I guess I just want it to feel like in games or in these fantasy spaces that aren't specifically trying to tell like a story of like that trauma, that they don't like treat it with more drama or more like indignity than it requires.
I met my wife playing this game, and that was awesome and stuff like that. I've met so many friends over the years that were LGBT, and it's been an experience. It's been fun. Yeah, I think I've had a blast playing WoW and meeting people and playing and like finding a community online, not in person, and just meeting different unique people across the country and seeing what they're going through in real life and in their corner. Like, I'm in California, so like being gay out here is way different than being gay in the middle of like Montana or the Dakotas and stuff like that. That's kind of harsh environment and stuff. And it's interesting being a gamer. You get to meet those people. Or someone that, like, we had a lesbian friend in South America, and what she had to go through and stuff like that was horrendous and stuff. I think gaming, and especially Discord, Vent was all right, but Discords allow people to really connect and stuff like that, and see each other and tell each other about their lives and stuff, show pictures. It's almost like a better Facebook.
The biggest thing for me has been when I'm in communities and there are other women in them. And sometimes, yeah, when you're just hanging out in chat or goofing off, or, you know, doing something a little bit lower stakes or even higher stakes stuff like doing mythic raiding. Sometimes there are like certain jokes or like POVs that just hit different if you're a woman, and it's just like the example that I'll share because it's still hilarious. Months ago, you know, the notion of boy bathrooms, how like boy bathrooms, they kind of are all the same, you know, there's like maybe a trash can doesn't have a lid on it, different colored towels, never the same colored towels of different sizes, there's like no extra toilet paper, and if there is, it's like a roll on the counter, they just have a bar of soap, no hand towel, and then like the shower itself, like no shower liner. It's just like probably just like the cheapest, like, you know, thing from Walgreens or Amazon that they could find, and then the only toiletry in the shower is like the 5-in-1 body wash. It's like they don't have shampoo and conditioner and body wash. It's just like, oh no, this, you just use this on everything. There's always just hair on every surface, like from like shaving or other things. The toilet is always disgusting. There's always just like thick layer of dust on everything, and then you don't even want to look at the bowl. So yeah, like this describes pretty much every single straight man's bathroom that I've ever experienced. But it's, yeah, talking about this, like the guys are like, oh my god, yeah, but the women like immediately are like, oh yeah, like it hits different because we've seen things, and then they chime in with an additional quip. So stuff like that is very funny. So yeah, I don't know that it's like, I could say that it's specific to like the game itself, but it's more about like the community that has been formed from playing the game. And when there are like other women there, you can have like, it can be a little bit more rewarding because you most likely have some more shared lived experiences, and you can commiserate and joke around, and so much of life and everything is like deeply harrowing and depressing and bleak. But if you're able to find the humor in it and be able to laugh at it, that makes all the difference. And that's easier with people that have had similar shared experiences as you.
Yeah, so I mean, I've met some of the people that I consider still to be like my closest friends now through World of Warcraft, and a lot of them I think are people that I wouldn't have met if I weren't playing video games, just because there isn't a ton of overlap in other areas. But as a result of meeting those people through World of Warcraft, I've been able to identify the other areas of overlap that we have, right? And so it's created an environment where I'm able to make relationships and create friendships that I wouldn't otherwise be creating in other areas of life, because I just wouldn't be meeting those people. And I think immediately to some of our older guildmates, right? And even you as a great example, is someone who I probably never would have crossed paths with elsewhere in life. But after having met you through video games, we've had some crazy 6 a.m. conversations talking about life and just real talk and stuff, that has created a bond that, I would now consider you to be one of my better friends. And even though I've never met you in real life, it's just, I feel like our relationship is a perfect example of that. Like, video games are an avenue through which networks and relationships can be created in a way that I don't think many other things can. And I think what you're doing here is a really powerful tool in continuing to increase the accessibility of both, like, obviously video games for minorities, but also just like connecting people to other people, and realizing that even if we may be completely different in identity, we still have crazy amounts of fun that we can have together in a virtual world or the real one, and hopefully in the best cases both.
So I don't know, like I'm on this computer, like
She has more representation in WoW than queer people. That's crazy. And there's multiple corgis in that game. Like, at least 3 that I can think of. Oh my god. There's even the corgi goggles. So it's even more. What if they had gay goggles? Can we petition that?
She is ready to answer any questions that you may have.
Twix, do you feel like you're well represented in video games?
Tell her what you really feel.
There's like always cats in video games.
Interesting. There probably are cats represented more often.